Welcome back to the deep dive. When we talk about safety audits on, say, an electromechanical construction site, your mind instantly goes to hard hats.
Mm-hmm. Rigging, heavy machinery, high voltage zones.
Exactly. But today, we are going deep into the one place on site that's, well, often just assumed to be safe because it's got air conditioning and a desk. We're talking about the office.
It's the blind spot, isn't it?
It really is.
It's the place where all the planning happens, the administrative core, and our source material today is the Electromechanical Construction Site Office Safety Audit Protocol.
Which is a mouthful.
It is. We're just going to call it the Rigor Blueprint. Our mission with this is really precise. We're assessing the office safety conditions to identify, every lurking hazard, both administrative and physical.
And making sure that regulatory compliance is ironclad, even inside those, temporary cabin walls.
Yeah.
So we're basically giving you the expert's shortcut. By the end of this deep dive, you're going to understand exactly how to spot the difference between a fully compliant site office and, well, a liability zone.
Mm-hmm.
We'll unpack the structural needs, the high-stakes world of electrical and fire safety, emergency readiness, and maybe most critically, the documentation that holds it all together.
And the expectation here is that you, as the listener, you'll walk away with a crystal clear idea of what auditors are looking for, why they look for it, and how these seemingly small details—
Like a surge protector chain or a stack of boxes.
Yes, how those things become high-risk liabilities on a regulated site.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we even get to the paperwork, the physical foundation, it has to be sound.
It has to be.
So when an auditor first steps inside that office cabin, what are the fundamentals? What are they looking at in that structural inspection?
Okay, so the first priority really is structural integrity and stability. We're verifying that the office cabin itself is properly leveled and secured.
Which, on a constantly shifting construction site, I imagine is never a given.
Never a given. We look for damaged floor surfaces, a small tear in the carpet, maybe a loose tile. That becomes a major trip hazard very, very quickly. We also check the roof and wall conditions, specifically looking for leaks or cracks.
Because water ingress doesn't just damage paperwork.
It compromises electrical safety hugely.
It sounds so basic. But I guess when you think about an office that might be moved several times over a project's life, the physical stress on it must be immense.
It is.
So beyond just stability, what about the access and flow inside the cabin?
Precisely. So we check door and window functionality. Do they open and close properly? And more importantly, do they lock securely?
Right, because these offices often hold sensitive data.
Absolutely. We also audit for adequate spacing and circulation areas. There must be clear, unobstructed pathways. And critically, accessibility features have to be maintained. If there's a ramp or steps to get in and they're broken or blocked, that's an immediate failure.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, especially since we're talking about an electromechanical project, electrical safety. The source material demands this, almost industrial level of rigor for the office power systems.
It's a zero-tolerance zone here.
How does that audit differ from what you'd find in, say, a typical corporate office?
Well, the risk profile is massively elevated because the office is often running sophisticated equipment CAD stations, servers, and it's using temporary power that might be drawn from the same grid that's powering a crane.
Wow.
So the number one priority is ensuring proper earthing or grounding of all electrical systems.
We use those terms interchangeably, right? UK versus US.
Yeah, same principle. The idea is absolute. Stray electricity must have a safe path to the earth. That's what prevents electrocution or fire.
So in that high-stakes environment, is something like poor cable management actually a higher risk here than it is out on the main site?
Counterintuitively, yes. Often because people in the office get complacent. The protocol specifically mandates no exposed or damaged wiring. We're checking circuit breakers and the fuse box, of course, but the most common finding is just, cable spaghetti under a desk.
I can picture that perfectly.
And you just cannot have extension cords daisy-chained together. That is an immediate fire hazard and a massive trip risk in a high-traffic area.
And what about the actual equipment plugged into those systems? The laptops, the monitors, maybe a coffee maker?
That's where portable appliance testing, or PIT, testing comes in. We confirm that PATE testing records are up to date on all the office equipment.
So this isn't just a physical check.
No, it verifies the preventative maintenance schedule. It confirms that the equipment itself is being regularly inspected for internal faults. It's proactive. And finally, if the site grid goes down, Functional emergency lighting has to kick in immediately, and that has to be tested regularly too.
Okay, so once the physical structure and its power backbone are confirmed to be sound, we shift focus. We go from prevention to readiness.
To how the humans inside respond when things go wrong.
Exactly. Let's dive into fire safety.
Fire safety is all about response speed. We check the availability and, crucially, the accessibility of fire extinguishers. But here's the critical detail from the rigor blueprint.
Okay.
They must have inspection dates within the last 6 months.
6 months. That's a tight window.
It is. If they're present but haven't been inspected within that window, they are non-compliant, period. That frequency acknowledges the harsh, dusty environment of a construction site, which can degrade equipment much faster than a fixed building.
That frequency is tough, but it makes sense. And what about exit routes? You hear about this all the time. How strict is the protocol on that?
It is absolute. Exit routes must be clearly marked, illuminated, and completely unobstructed.
No exceptions.
None. Think about it. During a sudden evacuation, the difference between a clear path and one blocked by a single stack of printer paper is measured in seconds. And those seconds save lives. We're also checking storage. Are combustible materials like, bulk paper or cleaning chemicals stored safely away from heat sources?
That covers the prevention side. Now let's pivot to response and training. What documentation needs to be posted? What drills are mandatory?
Preparation has to be visible. It has to be understood by everyone. So evacuation plans must be prominently posted, emergency contact numbers have to be displayed clearly, and the assembly points need to be identified and marked.
And in terms of practice?
The protocol demands a serious rhythm. Mandatory quarterly fire drills.
Quarterly. That is a huge logistical commitment. Is that frequency higher than average for workplace safety?
Oh, significantly higher than many corporate offices. And the frequency reflects the transient nature of construction site staff and the highly dynamic environment. People come and go.
So the constant change means procedures need to be reinforced constantly.
Repeatedly. It's about ensuring people don't just read the plan, they practice it until it's muscle memory.
Right. And what about general staff wellness? I mean, these are people who might be working very long hours. What does the audit require for welfare?
Welfare is often overlooked, but it's vital. We check the first aid kit availability, making sure its contents are complete, current, and accessible. And beyond that, we look at the staff training records.
For what specifically?
Specifically for emergency procedures and first aid competence, those have to be maintained and verified. This closes the loop. You have the equipment, and you know the personnel are actually trained to use it.
Okay, finally in this segment, safety often focuses on immediate hazards, but ergonomics is a huge part of compliance. In a temporary site office, how rigorously do auditors actually look at desk and chair setups?
Very rigorously. Because failing to address ergonomics introduces a long-term liability. We look at workspace quality, ensuring there's adequate desk and chair ergonomics to prevent repetitive strain injuries.
Which is probably the first thing to get cut in a temporary setup.
Often is.
Right.
But it's critical for compliance. We check computer monitor positioning to prevent eye strain, neck injury.
And environmental controls. I mean, how does a construction site manage noise and lighting for an office that's probably right next to a massive engineering operation?
It's a huge challenge, which is why it's audited. We look at lighting levels, ensuring there's a good mix of natural light supplemented by artificial light that avoids glare. Noise level management is audited to make sure it doesn't impede communication or cause long-term stress.
Which might require sound dampening measures or even moving the cabin.
It can, yeah. And we check temperature and ventilation, ensuring air quality isn't compromised by all the site activity going on outside. A healthy environment is a compliant one.
That comprehensive look at the human factor leads us perfectly into our next segment, the system of compliance. Because a failure in the physical structure is often rooted in a failure of the system that's supposed to manage it.
Exactly.
Starting with something as simple as housekeeping and organization.
Housekeeping is the operational backbone. It's about general cleanliness standards, verifiable waste disposal procedures. But the most immediate safety element is storage organization and stability.
So simple clutter can be a safety violation.
If it impedes movement or access to equipment, absolutely. Walkways must be completely clear. We are checking that materials, whether they're office supplies or technical documents, are stored securely to prevent falling hazards.
I can just imagine how easy it is for things to pile up in an environment like that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a specific measure for hygiene.
Correct. Maintaining a hygienic working environment, especially where staff are eating, includes documented pest control measures. This is a public health requirement tied into labor laws.
Now, for the core of the whole system, documentation. If the rigor blueprint is about anything, it's proving that safety wasn't just hoped for.
It was recorded. The paper trail is proof of due diligence. It's proof of competence.
What's that essential paper trail look like?
Well, required records include the site safety policy being prominently displayed and, importantly, acknowledged. Safety induction completed for every single person who steps foot in that office, even temporary staff. And ongoing training records properly maintained.
Why is that safety induction record so critical?
It confirms that every individual understands the site-specific risks and the specific emergency procedures for that office cabin. Without that sign-off, the organization can't prove due care was taken.
Right.
And beyond training, the system must have an incident and accident reporting structure in place, current permits and licenses, and posted insurance certificates. For compliance, if it wasn't recorded, it simply didn't happen.
That's the difference between doing safety and proving safety.
Yeah.
So the audit protocol itself has an immediate feedback mechanism. Tell us about this compliance rating system.
Yeah, the system is designed for instantaneous risk communication. It uses a clear audit checklist framework that assigns one of 4 ratings: compliant, which is a check mark, needs improvement, a warning sign, non-compliant, an X, and not applicable, or an A.
Let's focus on those 2 failure ratings. What does it mean practically if you get a needs improvement versus a non-compliant?
That difference is crucial for site management. Needs improvement means there's a procedural or a minor physical issue that doesn't pose an immediate threat, but it has to be corrected. Maybe a missing label or slightly insufficient lighting.
Okay.
Non-compliant, however, that's a major finding. An obstructed emergency exit, expired fire extinguishers, exposed live wiring. That rating often mandates an immediate halt to operations in that area until it's fixed.
And it triggers a much higher level response, I assume?
It automatically does, yes.
So this all raises a really important question. What are the typical failures? If you're preparing for an audit, what are the most likely things you need to fix right now?
Based on the common findings in our source material, the failure is almost always in the basics.
The simple stuff.
Always. The top violations are obstructed emergency exits. People just see it as temporary storage space. Then expired fire extinguishers, usually just an oversight in that 6-month inspection schedule. And always poor cable management creating trip hazards.
Because everyone adds a new computer or a phone charger without thinking.
Without updating the power strip capacity. Exactly. The moment you think the basics are covered, they come back to bite you.
What else comes up frequently?
We also find inadequate first aid supplies a lot. Often, the kit is there, but items are missing or past their expiration date. And finally, missing or outdated safety documentation, particularly induction records for staff who have recently joined or left. These are the immediate targets you want to fix because they go from needs improvement to non-compliant very quickly.
Moving into our final segment, let's zoom out a bit. Segment 4 is about the regulatory context and the structure for continuous improvement. So what bigger standards does this deep dive actually ensure compliance with?
This specific audit protocol, it's designed to be comprehensive. It's like an umbrella. It ensures compliance with local occupational safety and health regulations, the relevant building codes for temporary structures, fire safety codes, national electrical standards, and even environmental regulations and labor laws.
So it provides a pretty robust legal shield for the whole organization.
By covering all the bases, yes.
So when a major failure is flagged, let's say that exposed wiring gets a non-compliant mark. What is the structured process for fixing that? There has to be accountability and deadlines tied to that risk level.
There is. The corrective action process is highly structured and it's driven by risk. For every non-compliance finding, the documentation must include a description of the failure. It's assigned risk level high, medium, or low, which is key for prioritizing.
Right.
The responsible person for fixing it, a target completion date, and the verification method to close the loop. A high-risk failure demands immediate, 24-hour closure. A low-risk one might get a week.
That system makes it transparently accountable. So, beyond just fixing the immediate problem, what are the official recommendations from the protocol to maintain high safety standards long-term?
The recommendations are all about longevity, turning reactive response into proactive maintenance. They advise conducting regular safety inspections with a minimum frequency of monthly checks. Monthly. They also stress providing ongoing safety training, especially as technology or site conditions change, and they require regular review and updates of emergency procedures. Safety is explicitly defined as a continuous process, not a destination you arrive at.
That really brings home the value of these protocols. They turn these potential high-risk liabilities, an overloaded circuit, a forgotten fire drill, into manageable, documented, and assigned actions.
It's about preventing incidents before they even gain momentum.
It's building a sustainable system, not just passing a one-time test.
Exactly. This entire framework is built on a structured feedback loop. It goes way beyond just ticking a box.
So we've walked through the physicals, the response, the documentation, the accountability. But if you are building any kind of safety system, the real insight lies in what you do after the fixes are made.
Yes. The follow-up actions required by the rigor blueprint guide the organization not just to document the corrective actions, but to update the whole safety management system, and most importantly, to track trends for continuous improvement.
And that's the key takeaway.
It is. So when you're assessing any workplace safety system, whether it's on a massive electromechanical site or a small office, the real measure of success isn't the current compliance score. It's whether the organization has built a system rigorous enough to consistently track trends for continuous improvement. That ability to learn from past failures and proactively mitigate future risk, that is the true hallmark of a safe operation.